Paul Sawabe was a samurai and later an Orthodox catechumen and then priest. He was the first of 3 Japanese-born men to be converted to Orthodoxy under Saint Nicholas of Japan. Under Saint Nicholas, Paul worked as a missionary and priest in Japan at the same time as the Japanese persecution of Christians. Paul Sawabe was born as Yamamoto Kazuma in 1833. Yamamoto was raised and trained as a samurai, learning kendo and philosophy in the 1850s. In 1857, when drinking heavily with his cousin, Yamamoto stole a golden watch. He tried to sell the watch, but police identified him as a thief and ordered him to commit seppuku, so he fled the city. Yamamoto fled to Hakodate. While in Hakodate, Yamamoto married the daughter of a Shinto priest. Yamamoto then named himself Takuma Sawabe, Sawabe being the name of his father-in-law, who also adopted him. Under his new identity, Sawabe joined a group that held great reverence of the Emperor of Japan and wanted to force out all foreigners from Japan, especially Christians. Sawabe and his group began a plan to assassinate members of the Russian consulate in Japan. On one night in 1865, armed with a sword, Sawabe approached Saint Nicholas, the first Russian Orthodox missionary in Japan, planning to assassinate him. Nicholas and Sawabe had a short conversation in which Nicholas asked why Sawabe would murder him for his beliefs without letting him first explain them. Sawabe then allowed Nicholas to explain his belief in Christianity, and Nicholas began to convince Sawabe not to kill him, and also instilled a great interest in Christianity in him. Sawabe, alongside his friend Sakai Tokore, began researching Christianity. They were soon joined by 2 more of his friends, Urano and Suzuki, all 4 of them becoming catechumens, beginning their entrance into the Russian Orthodox Church. They also began speaking to other people about the Orthodox faith, despite the fact that this was incredibly illegal and punishable by death, oftentimes crucifixion. In April of 1868, St. Nicholas baptized Sawabe, Sakai, and Urano under the names Paul, John, and James respectively, becoming the first 3 native Japanese Orthodox Christians. With their baptism, Paul and his friends began preaching even more fervently. The threat of persecution and execution was growing in Hakodate, so Nicholas sent Paul and his friends to other parts of Japan, spreading the Orthodox faith across all of Japan. Paul had great successes in northern Sendai Honshu, so Nicholas, looking to expand his preaching efforts, sent Paul to Tokyo. Paul was sent to assess Tokyo and the surrounding towns, determining how safe and effective preaching would be there. Paul was very optimistic about Tokyo, telling Nicholas he should come to Tokyo as soon as possible, so in January of 1871 he changed his headquarters to Tokyo, where he would soon build the Holy Resurrection Cathedral. While opposition had somewhat softened in Tokyo, it was by no means gone, and in February of 1872, Paul and many other Christians were arrested in Sendai. Despite the great danger all of these men, women, and children were at, they maintained their faith and were later freed. In 1875, Nicholas decided that it would be best for Japan to have a strong native clergy, naming Paul as the first native Japanese Orthodox priest, with John Sakai becoming a deacon. A month later, Paul was ordained by Bishop Paul of East Siberia. Paul would live on for many years, outliving Nicholas by 1 year, dying in 1913. Paul, alongside St. Nicholas, were incredibly important in the conversion of Japan to Eastern Orthodoxy, and are responsible for the minority of Orthodox Christians still living in Japan. Paul, despite his original upbringing and hatred for outsiders, changed his mind when he was met with the opposition of St. Nicholas. He was the first Japanese Orthodox Christian and would later become the first priest, preaching to the Japanese until his death in 1913.